My father is from Asaba, but he is Igbo. And that is what we are talking about here. That makes me come from the south-south as a geopolitical zone and an Igbo man.
You are from the Anioma Oshimili side of the River Niger. And, we hear that people who are not mainstream Igbos, the Igbos in Delta, the Igbos in rivers, Igbo subgroups, are also good enough to represent Igbos. But the dilemma here is that people from all the other ethnic groups that we mentioned, they also belong to the South-South. They are not mainstream Igbos. So why is this, a big issue about we are also Igbos? Because if the thing goes to Igbo land, we too are part of the Igbos. And if so, who are your favorite candidates, possible candidates from the marginal Igbo group?
You talked about mainstream Igbo. What is that? I don't think there's anything called mainstream Igbo. Because, you see, if we go back a little bit in history, even from the coup that brought, that truncated Nigerians' democracy as far as I'm concerned and put us in the country which seemed to be in 1966, one of the major participants was a young man called, he was a major, Zogo. He's from Okpanam. Okpanam is just 2 minutes away from Asaba. It's more or less the same place as Asaba, which makes him an Oshimili Igbo person. From that axis, the Anyocha Oshimili area, we speak exactly the same kind of, when I have a discussion with any brother of mine across the Niger, he understands what I'm saying. There might be little fluctuations of one word. We can say shine, they can say rine, and little things like that. But in the main, it is the same dialect, it is the same language. Now, when you look at even the effort of the Biafran War, and I want to talk about personal experience here, you will see that the Oshimili Anyocha Igbos were even the ones that bore most of the brunt of that war. But in terms of course, the Asaba massacre is known to everybody. I don't think any town, either in the southeast or anywhere in Nigeria, suffered as much as the Asaba people did, with the kind of killings and the program that went on in Asaba on that fateful day. Why was that so? If you think those people, the federal troops did not have enough intelligence to tell them that this town was solidly behind the Biafran agitation. My late father was a medical doctor who was practicing in Benin at the time when the Civil War broke out. I was barely 6 years old, my two elder sisters. And my mom is of the Yoruba extraction. She had a choice of taking us to her parents in Ibadan where they were living. But she said, no, wherever my husband is going, I'm going to go with my husband. And they put us in 2 cars and we went across. They went to look for an old friend of his that they were all in Benin, who lived in Oka, Chief Dom Musu Njikoka, as they called him. And we stayed with him in his house in Oka, and both families became one. And thereafter, we ran from one town to the other throughout the 30 months of the Biafran Civil War. Obviously, if my father did not take us away, possibly I might not even have been here, because the children were killed, women were killed. There is no family in Asaba that did not suffer the loss of one person or the other, a man, woman, or child. Because don't forget, when those federal troops came to Asaba, the idea was that, oh, come and welcome the federal troops, they are here. And they all gathered the people in the open field, and then they opened fire on them. So whenever I hear this talk about Igbo presidency, and people are trying to say there is some subgroup of Igbo or there's mainstream Igbo, it doesn't resonate with me. Because, you see, the Anyama people, or rather the Oshimili Anyocha people, will always be shortchanged in Nigeria. Let me tell you a little story. In 1999, when the new democracy started, it was everywhere. It was an open secret that the person that was tipped to be the secretary to the federation at that time was Chief Philip Asiodu. He is my godfather, he's my uncle, he took me into government. We all know his antecedents, super palm sec, very cerebral and everything. He's one of the custodians of Nigerian history and political economy and everything. And he was supposed to be the secretary to the government of of Nigeria at that time. And just before the announcement was made, they decided that, oh no, since a Southeasterner, an Igbo man, was going to be number 3, that is the Senate president, the Wazobia thing. There was going to be a president from the West, a vice president from the North, and the Senate president from the East, as it were, who was an Igbo man. Now, they refused to make it. He was not confirmed as the SGF anymore, which was supposed to be like number 6 or whatever in the hierarchy, because he was an Igbo man. So at that time, it was he conveniently lost that position because he was Igbo. But they didn't remember that he was also South-South, because the whole idea, they said they had to look for a true South-South Nigerian, and that's how Ufo Tekaite was made the secretary to the government. So you see, when it's convenient, we are not Igbos. When it's convenient, we are South-South. When it's convenient, we are not South-South. When it's not convenient, we are not Igbos. So you see, they can't keep picking and choosing for us all the time. And it is particularly heart-wrenching when I see, hey, we know how Nigeria works. Whether an Igbo man will be president, only God knows. Personally, I want to see that happen, even if you say, yes, the Igbos from the Southeast, have not enjoyed it at this time. But also the Igbos from Anyota Oshimili, who have a skin in the game, and who have suffered everything the Igbo man from across the Niger has suffered, has also never been. Don't forget that when Midwest was a region, the first premier, that is the only region that was even created by a referendum in Nigeria, when there were just 4 regions in Nigeria. The first premier was Chief Dennis Osadebe. Yes, he was from Asaba. And he was the premier of Midwest states. Yes, Midwest region, rather. So what I'm saying is that we never lacked the manpower, the capacity of human beings, or that human capital that can deliver on that kind of mandate as the president of Nigeria. So to keep shutting the door at us, using all these, little colorations that are always brought into the matter, you are South-South now, you are not Igbo now, you are not mainstream Igbo, it just doesn't make sense to me. That is the truth. I just want to put the record straight in terms of what it is we are doing as a country. You see, there are too many injustices in Nigeria already that we are complaining about. I, as an Igbo man, am complaining that an Igbo man has not been president.